Hello, boys and girls. We're going to make our vocabulary diamond for this week's words. This week we're reading a tall tale called Stormalong. And a tall tale is a tale that has lots of exaggeration for effect and is also kind of funny because of the exaggeration. And so the story that we're going to read this week is definitely a tall tale. And it might seem familiar to you if you've read other tall tales. One of the most famous characters in tall tales is Paul Bunyan. And so this time we're reading a story about a character named Stormalong. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold into 4 squares, right? So far you're totally familiar with this. You've probably done it a million times. And so I'm guessing you already know how to do the X's and the squares. Go really fast. And once we have our X's, we'll be all set. All right. And we're going to make our synonym lines too. We've got some yelling neighbors today. Super loud yelling neighbors. All right, we're going to go ahead and do this. X's in every box. Again, you can always pause me if it's taking you longer to do it. If you're faster than I am, which you might be, you can always fast forward along so that I go faster. And again, we need our synonym lines. Put them right here. Put them right here. Okay. So I'm going to make sure I put my name at the top. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Try to. Okay, so our first word is foaming. And foaming is a verb. And it means to form minute, frothy bubbles. And the synonym that I got was spray. Spray usually is made up of little foamy bubbles too. So we're going to be reading about the ocean, and Stormalong is born in the ocean and comes up out of the sea, and so we're going to be reading about all the foamy bubbles. Sometimes when you go to the beach, you see on the sand little lines of foam, right? Like on the beach, there's foam. So if this is sand, this is foam, this is water, right? So foam is the sort of bubbly, kind of frothy layer, and usually foam is made out of bubbles. All right, our second word is yearning. And yearning is a noun. and it means a deep longing. And I put on here tenderness as my synonym. So you're going to see that the main character, Stormalong, in our story feels a yearning to be around other people. He has a special characteristic about his person that makes him different from everyone else. I don't want to ruin the story for you. And because he's slightly different from everyone else, he kind of has a yearning to have friends that are at least more like him. So I kind of think of yearning as sort of love and loss. Put like a little broken heart here. Yearning is a little bit of both, right? It's a little bit of love, it's a little bit of loss and sad feeling. It's kind of mixed emotions when you're yearning. All right, our next word is horrified. And horrified is an adjective. It means showing great shock. And I found shocked was another one would be appalled. So horrified means that you just can't even believe that something happened. You're just completely in shock. You're just amazed, and not amazed in a good way. Like you're horrified something terrible has happened, right? That's just been shocked you to the core. So if I try to think, last year, when we were doing Zoom, we had a little sibling that started to get undressed in front of Zoom. Like he didn't realize that he was on camera. He didn't realize that he was on camera. And so he walked into the room and he started to get his clothes out of the drawer, and we were all watching. We had small groups of 5 last year, so there were only 5 of us watching. The person whose little brother it was facing her computer, so she couldn't see what he was doing. So he opened the drawers and he started taking clothes out, and then he started getting undressed. And he took his shirt off, and all of us started yelling at the same time, "No!" Like all of us were horrified. We didn't want him to take his pants off. We were just horrified that he was starting to get undressed. So all of us yelled, "No, stop!" at the same time. And then the person on Zoom, the person whose little brother it was, she was funny. She kind of looked like this. She was facing us, and we could kind of see him in the background. He was back here by these drawers, right? Like he was getting his clothes out of the drawers. And then she had a look on her face of like, oh my gosh, like she was completely shocked. And she yelled at him, "No, stop!" Right? She looked completely horrified that her little brother was almost undressing in front of all of her classmates. It was actually really funny, but she had a horrified look on her face. She was shocked and appalled. And then she got mad at him and started yelling at him, and then he looked like he was going to cry because he didn't know that he was on camera. He was just a little guy. He didn't know. All right, our next word is tolerance. So, in our story, we're going to have Stormalong as a character that's different from everybody else, very different. And you're going to see that people show tolerance towards him. And they tolerate that he's very different. And he's different in a very exaggerated, over the top way. But most of the people that live near him are sort of kind and tolerant of his difference. So, tolerance is a noun. And it is a fair, objective attitude. And resilience is the synonym I got. So people that are tolerant tend to be kind of fair, right? They look at things fairly. They don't get too upset about people or things, right? They're kind of even keel and even tempered. I kind of think of it as somebody who, if you were to think about having a temper, somebody who's tolerant would be somebody that's kind of in the middle. Like if you were to draw a measurement of temperament, somebody who's tolerant would kind of be in the middle. They don't get too upset by little things or big things. They're just kind of even tempered, even keel. Nothing really upsets them, right? If you're somebody that something easily upsets you, you get like angry, would be like over here on this spectrum, and maybe over here would be indifferent, meaning you just don't care at all. So a tolerant person cares, but they just don't get mad about stuff very often. They let people be. They let people live how they want to live, right? So they're also kind of understanding too. All right, I'm going to flip. Hopefully that's okay with you. Our next word is betrayed. Betrayed is a verb. And betrayed means to expose an enemy by treachery. And the synonym that I got is forsaken. So when I was a little kid, I had two older sisters and an older brother, and I loved spying on all of them because I was the youngest. So my hobby was spying on them. Usually I would tattle on them as well if they were doing something that I knew my parents would get mad about. And they all sort of teamed up against me. And so if one of them saw me spying or getting ready to tattle, they would betray me to the other ones, right? They would say, I see Karen's behind there. She's listening in. She's eavesdropping. I loved listening to people when they were on the phone. And so if somebody saw me sitting and listening when someone was on the phone, they would say, Karen's listening. Don't say anything you don't want her to hear, right? So when you betray somebody, you kind of expose the person. And so that's, you expose what the person's doing. So I also had a pair of binoculars, and I like to spy on my sisters and my brother with my binoculars. So I will put that. And sometimes when you're spying on somebody, you get betrayed. People see that you have binoculars and that you're spying. All right. Title is our next word. Not Title, but Tidal. And that means pertaining to a water current. It's an adjective. And it means pertaining to a water current. And I got streaming for that because sometimes water is streaming when the tide comes in. So you probably already know this, but the tides on planet Earth are affected by the moon. So this is the moon. We'll put some craters on it. Looks like a Cocoa Puff. So wherever the moon is located in regards to Earth, the moon pulls on the Earth. And so it causes tide changes in the water, right? So wherever the moon pulls on the Earth, it causes changes in tide. So the Earth's rotating constantly. Also, the moon is rotating around the Earth. So the fact that the moon keeps changing and that the Earth is changing causes the water that's on our planet the tides to change. So the moon is, and this probably doesn't look like the moon, so you might want to add that. And then let's make this look like the Earth so that you can tell it's the Earth. I made the ocean way too big. Right, so wherever the moon is in relationship to planet Earth, it causes an actual bulge. It causes the gravity between the Earth and the moon causes an actual bulge, and that causes an increase in tides or a change in tides. Okay, our next word is shortage. Shortage is a noun. And shortage means a deficiency in quantity. And I found lack was a good synonym for that. So a shortage just means there's not enough of any object, and we all know a good example of that would be when we got quarantined, there was a shortage of toilet paper, right? People went to the store. They were worried there wouldn't be enough toilet paper. So they kind of went bonkers and hoarded it. And then there was not enough for everybody or for anybody because people hogged it. Right? So toilet paper is a good quarantine example of shortage. Now there's toilet paper again because all the people that hogged it have enough, so the rest of us can have some. Our last word is seafaring. Boop, seafaring. Seafaring is an adjective. And it means of or relating to a sea voyage. And I got nautical as my synonym. So normally we go on a field trip in 4th grade where we go on a boat. And this is not just any boat, it's a giant ship. It's a replica of a ship from the 1800s. And it has 2 masts. It's called a brigantine. And so it kind of looks like this. It has double masts. And we usually go out on this ship, and it's pretty fun, and they show us how to sail a ship. I did not make these big enough. My ship has this shocking lack of nothing up here. So anyhow, a seafaring person is somebody that lives the life of a sailor, right? That sails. And the reason why we go on this ship is because we're going to be learning about people traveling to California. Last year, unfortunately, the ship was damaged and was leaking, and so we were not able to go on that field trip last year, which was very disappointing. So they didn't get to go on the ship either, and they were all kind of mad about that. So seafaring just means that you sail on the sea, and in our story, Stormalong is going to be a seafaring lad. All right, I hope this helped you do your vocabulary diamond. And if you weren't able to attend class for any reason, now you have the vocabulary words for you to use. Hope this helped. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you later.